So it can be, so the one eligibility system will allow us to allow Oregonians to apply online in about more than a quarter due, but you can also encourage people to go into an office or call the one customer service center. So, and just as a reminder too, if you just go to benefits.oregon.gov, you'll find all sorts of helpful information. No need to spend much time here on this. I understand, I hope. But I do want to point out this past week, which is the end of the month and the beginning of the month, always a busy time on the phones. The average wait time was only 5 minutes. I know a lot of people still have in their heads those very busy times from a year or so ago where wait times were 2 hours or more. But right now, I don't need to jinx anything, but this is a slower time. So people don't have to wait as long to reach the customer service center. In fact, I'm even taking a peek at this very second. There's 32 people in the queue. So the average, the wait time is approximately 8 minutes right now. So just remind people that the wait times are not too bad at the moment. And if you're having trouble getting connected to your account, or your client is having trouble getting connected to account, the technical support team is about a 9 minute wait. At least last week it was, and right now it's there's 5 people in the queue. It's about a 6 minute wait. So that's just where we're at the moment. Now I do have a little pro tip, and that is um, if people are expecting a call, a lot of times clients need to have appointments set up or any number of things. Maybe there's a problem with their application and they need to be called. Our team will call them. The numbers that they will call from is there on the screen, 503-945-5722. Please encourage your clients to have this number in their phone, because we're getting reports that some people were not responding to calls because it was going to their spam filter. So just a little reminder to make a note of that phone number, because we don't want people to miss important calls. And I never let a chance to speak with people go by without making a plug for the Oregon One mobile app. Now, I know there's plenty of limitations with it, that you gotta, anytime someone uses the one account, they're going to have to change their passwords every 90 days, things like that. It's stuff we're stuck with right now. We're hoping to make some adjustments on that, but there's restrictions put on by our federal oversight bodies. But you can apply over the mobile app. It is a great tool for people to manage their benefits. It's you can see the benefit amount. You can see when you have appointments. It'll give you reminders. It's a one spot where you can see all the notices that a client has gotten, that a person has gotten. And so you can if the job has changed and you need to, a person needs to give an update on what their pay is, you take a snapshot of the pay stub and send it in that way. It's much more convenient. So obviously not for everyone, got to have a smartphone, but it's a small app, doesn't take a lot of memory. It's not going to track anyone. It's there to get the job done. So I always like to make a plug for that. Now, while I'm rolling along, I'll talk about some of the changes that have occurred in the one system. Now, one thing that I'm not sure if this group has been told about, but when you call a lot of different institutions, banks, and hospitals and such, often the information you need is just something that is relatively basic. Well, we're finally introducing that here at the state as well, integrated voice response. So Say you just want to get a confirmation about your benefits, or you want to get an EBT card. Well, now it's set up so you don't even have to talk to a person, which I know sometimes that's not what you want to do, but now that is the option though. And so when people call, they go through a few steps to verify their identity, then they're given a code so they can do it again easier. But uh, now if the lines for some reason get long again, the person won't have to wait that long for these purposes. Obviously, it doesn't work for everything, but those two circumstances I just mentioned, receiving benefit status and getting an EBT card replaced, now you can do it relatively easily. And another change that has happened recently is something that state passed into law. And the idea is, well, first, we're going to be asking more details about people's racial identity, their disability status, their language, and also their sexual orientation and gender identity. So we have to ask these questions, but people don't have to give an answer. I know, there's various reasons for that, and it totally makes sense. But by getting this data, we are able to track and make sure we're reaching everyone we should be, that they're getting similar responses. That's in fact one of my tasks now has been to analyze the data and see that we are processing applications quick. There's not dangerous patterns and acceptance and denials, things like that. And so by collecting this data, it allows us to serve groups that often have been overlooked and marginalized. But again, let me emphasize that for a particular applicant, they do not have to answer these questions. It's just that we have to ask them. I'm sort of rolling through stuff right now. Any questions so far? Okie dokie. And I do have some good news about the notices that get mailed out. Right now, I don't even have the count in my head here, but you can see we had 7 languages that all the notices were printed in. And this year we have already added several more, and you can see the list. They've all were added, this year. And we're pretty excited about that. This has been a larger process from my colleagues, but this is going to be allowing people with different backgrounds who don't speak English or don't speak Spanish to get notices in language that they can use. Now, keep in mind that the one system itself is still only in English and Spanish, but the notices, those things that pile up in people's mailboxes, they are now in all these languages. And I'm happy to report that that's not all, because over the next 18 months or so, we're adding all these languages. And I had to put it in Excel and just, get a line count. So these languages are not being put in all the notices, but I put my little asterisk there. And so it's the 28 most common notices. So that's something like at least 90% of the mail that people receive are these 28 notices. And it's been a process. So we're adding a few most months. And so by the end of next year, all these languages will be used for those top 28 notices. Okay, great. And I think this is something I talked about last time when I spoke to this group back in February. There's some people who are blind and they need notices in Braille. Well, we also offer audio versions, and we had been sending out tapes until just a few months ago now, at least. instead of getting cassette tapes, people can get them on thumb drives and CDs. Slightly more modern, we'll see if we can get totally into the second decade of the century, but it's a step up from cassette tapes. All right, and then I think I duplicated a slide here, but I want to make a plug that there is a website available for partners. I'm working on an update for it, but please go ahead and check it out. I will have, I think after my presentation, I'll go ahead and drop this link in the chat again. But oh heck, no, I think I have it here. Perhaps. Yeah. So oh, and I'm just noticing the question in the chat. Regina, I will have to get back to you on that. I do not know the answer to that. What alphabet is used for Romanian and Moldovan? So I will get back to you. Excellent question. Now, as you can see on this website, there's how-to videos, there's outreach materials, just different ways to connect. And speaking of ways to connect, we also, I host a quarterly one partner engagement meeting where you don't get me, you get the people who actually work on the one system itself. If you have questions, why is it like this? What can we do when we're getting stuck in certain places, or requests for specific materials? This is a good time. Just, I think of it as sort of an office hour where you come in and we can discuss issues. We're not going to, it's a public forum, so we're not going to discuss specific cases per se. But nonetheless, I think it's a helpful time to see what when you're asking, well, why is the application online like this? Well, we can get answers for you so you can understand and explain it better to people you're helping, and in general, just get a better understanding of the process of how to make changes in the system. Because we also have this group that I facilitate, the One Online Improvement Committee, and that is a group of community partners, and there's a few benefit recipients. We meet monthly to discuss what we can do to make the one system better. Often questions feel threatening or confusing, and so we get to, I get mocked for mixing my metaphors. It's a chance to lift the hood and see how the sausage is made, though. So this group will take suggestions in that form I just put into the chat, and we'll take a look at them and see how staff will look at it to make sure that it's possible under law and under our circumstances. But then the group will wordsmith changes. So that is my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to help with those. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. And otherwise, I've stunned everyone into silence. So we can move on to the next person. But again, feel free to email me or write something in the chat if something occurs to you. And I see our next speaker has joined us. Maria, are you ready to describe what you can?
Sure.
Oh, we have two Marias. I'm sorry.
Which Maria did you mean? Did you mean me?
So Maria Waters is what we'll start with, and then we'll go to the legislative update.
The tale of the Marias. It's a never-ending saga, right? Not the first time and not the last, right, Maria? Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Waters. My pronouns are she and her, and I have the privilege of working on the community engagement team, the director's office of ODHS. And an additional hat I've been asked to wear is the community engagement lead for the ODHS Federal Action Coordination Team, which is a fancy way of saying the team of folks who are working to analyze and respond to executive orders and federal changes to policy and programs. So I just have a few, this will be super brief, but wanted to share a few key updates with you, share a little bit about what our current priorities are, and then also just remind you of where you can find the most recent news and resources related to federal changes. So again, the team that ODHS has assembled to respond to all of the changes and updates happening at the federal level that may have a potential to impact Oregon or the folks who live in Oregon is called the Federal Action Coordination Team, also known as FACT, because what would ODHS be without a new acronym? And really, there are 5 key priorities that we're working on. The first is to ensure continuity of operations for Oregon Department of Human Services clients. That will always remain our top priority and what we are working hard to do every day. The second is to provide planning and support for responding to federal actions. So every single executive order that is issued is automatically triggers a review by the FACT team to evaluate for potential impacts to programs and services that ODHS administers. If an executive order applies to a different state agency, unless there is some sort of a tie, other agencies have similar teams where they are doing a similar process. So our scope is limited to changes that would impact ODHS programs and services. The third is to escalate issues quickly for decision making. They use the term fast, but that is a very subjective term that leaves too much room for assumption. So I would say it does have a process for escalation to evaluate for decision making. The fourth is to maintain situational awareness. We can all agree it's a very rapidly changing environment, and so this team helps to maintain situational awareness to all of the potential changes. And then the final priority is to produce consistent and reliable communications to both staff, community partners, tribal nations, and the folks who do receive services from Oregon Department of Human Services. So those are really the priorities and what is happening. I want to be clear that at this time, if tangible changes are happening to a program or service that ODHS administers, that will be communicated, through existing channels that we would use to regularly communicate changes. So that would be our website, that would be through partner communications, that would be through notices to our clients, or through our social media channels. So please remember to stay tuned and subscribe to those existing channels of communications, because if there were to be changes, that is where you will be the first to find out about them. Additionally, you are all probably already aware, but there has been a website, a web page, added to our website that has the most recent updates and information relating to federal changes. I've just put that link in the chat. It will be updated regularly as new information comes through. And so please do check back often for any new news or information. The last thing I'll say is don't forget to also stay in touch with the points of contact that you already have established within the respective programs, whether it be self-sufficiency or OEP or child welfare. Use those relationships that you already have with your ODHS program staff as a point of contact if you have further points of questions or clarifications. I will be very transparent that at this point, we just don't have a lot of information to share because most federal actions where there may be potential impacts are currently in litigation or otherwise paused. And so there just has not yet been a lot of concrete information to share. I recognize that could be really frustrating, but again, those updates will come through those existing channels as soon as we have any information to share. So that's really what we had. James, did I miss anything? Keep me honest here. Miss anything that you can think of off the top of your head?
I'm just thinking, I am sure there are people in this room who would love to put us on the spot and ask a difficult question or three.
Um, yeah, James, thanks for that. Again, it's going to be pretty limited in that we just don't have a lot of information yet. But happy to, I mean, if there are questions that we can answer, I'm happy to do that. But the answer is likely to be, I don't know. So full disclosure there.
Yeah, it's our programs haven't changed at the moment. I know there's a lot of fear, but that's a message that you can take to your coworkers and staff. And if they do change or they start to change, we will try to get the word out as soon as possible. I mean, so much is tied up in litigation that it's, um, we'll see.
Yes. I think the other big message is while um, there there is also a top priority to really ramp up communications as soon as there is new information. Um, so we are working really hard to get approved channels of communication um, going on a more consistent basis, even if there aren't new updates, but to be able to be a bit more transparent about all the work that is happening. There's an incredible team assembled who is working overtime on all of these things, but we haven't been able to talk about that a lot yet. So know that that is additionally a top priority in our communications team is working closely with the governor's office, Department of Justice, ODHS leadership to create more consistent channels, especially for our community partners. David, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. That's helpful. And, since James specifically invited tough questions, I don't think this is that tough. I just will reflect that we're hearing more from folks, sort of inaccurate information about like the perception that SNAP is already being cut, the perception that programs may already be subject to public charge. Um, and I guess it's less of a question, more of sort of like an encouragement to continue what I just heard from you, Maria, the sort of proactive communication, even when things have not changed. I think it is part of a larger sort of like combating disinformation strategy that like we need to work together on. So it's less of a question, but a bit of a report back and sort of affirming the usefulness of proactive communication around these programs not changing.
I really appreciate that, David. Thank you so much for the feedback, and I will certainly take that back to our team and just let them know that it was shared. We agree wholeheartedly, and I think it's a great reminder. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. I also, for those of you, I would imagine most all of you are aware of the Nonprofit Association of Oregon already, but they are an additional phenomenal resource for all organizations in Oregon, nonprofit organizations in Oregon to tap into. They are currently running weekly webinars relating to federal changes. And are able to engage very differently than we are as a state agency. They have also opened up quite a few resources to all nonprofits in Oregon, regardless of whether you're a member or not, because of just the need for spaces and information. And so if you have not checked out their website or connected with Nonprofit Association of Oregon, I would really encourage you to do so. They are putting out some very helpful information. The webinars are very helpful. Many of them are recorded, some of them are recorded and are posted on their website. So if you haven't checked them out, I would encourage you to do that as well.
And Susan, I see your question in the chat. Yes, the SNAP has not changed. Public charge has not changed. The SNAP, but other support programs like the food bank, we should probably get people from the food bank to talk about what they're going through, because they do get money from the federal government, and that has been cut. We're not really prepared here, being a separate agency, a state agency, to talk about it here, but that would be a good thing for us to discuss at a future meeting.
Yeah, I think I've heard that there's been a lot of questions about the funding source to the Oregon Food Bank. And the challenge with that is that because that funding is not ODHS funding, it goes directly to the Oregon Food Bank. We really aren't able to speak on behalf of that agency. But yeah, James may be a great guest speaker for another meeting.
Well, Maria Waters, thank you.
My pleasure. It was good to be with you all. Have a good day.
Yeah. And we have from our government relations team, Maria, despite what's showing on the account there, you're looking at me because I'm going to say your last name. I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see how you say
Maria,
it.
I'm not even able to look at it. Klemenko?
Yes, pretty good. Hi, everyone. Maria Klimenko. As James said, I'm with the government relations team. I primarily support the offices of the programs of self-sufficiency and vocational rehabilitation. And I have been asked to give you an update, a legislative update as to some key bills that we're tracking specifically from the self-sufficiency perspective. So right now we're in a little bit of an awkward time as things have transitioned after the first chamber deadline. And one of the things that we're currently waiting for is the May economic forecast, which is expected to be released on May 14th, I believe, at 8 a.m. And that's going to give us, I think, a much better picture of at what level we can expect certain bills to be funded. A lot of that is still under negotiations at the moment. And in terms of what we're seeing at the federal policy level, specifically with different federal funding cuts, although there's still a lot of things in the air, we are seeing significant cuts to our refugee program and infrastructure. In terms of things like SNAP and TANF, we'll probably know more this fall. And so I think based on that, we are very likely to have a special session in the fall, which means that for this legislative session, the economic conditions are pretty conservative. And let me give you an overview of some specific bills that we are tracking this session, unless you have any general questions about anything I just said. So any questions before I go into some specific bills? James, I'll let you monitor the chat, okay? One of the bills that we are monitoring right now is Senate Bill 149. So this began essentially as additional funding for extended case management. So for those of you who may not be aware, we had a bill during the first Trump administration in 2019 that essentially gave a longer time period for refugees during which they received case management services, because federally funded, it's only for 90 days. So since then, it's been about 4 million every biennium, a little higher with inflation. And we initially put this idea forward because at the time that this Welcoming Refugees Bill for extended case management was passed, we were seeing about 700 refugee arrivals to the state. Since that time, in the last 2 years, and really in the last 3 years, we've seen significant growth. But in the last 2 years, we've had over 7,000 refugee arrivals to the state. So there was already a large discrepancy between current service level and amount of people served. Now that we know of these additional cuts to the refugee program, that critical infrastructure piece is becoming even more crucial. So again, I don't really know at this point to what funding level we will be able to see, but at the moment, this bill is in the Committee of Ways and Means. Any questions there? Okay. Another bill that we've been working on with Senator Reynolds, I'm not sure if some of you are following, but she has a set of policy bills that are being referred to as Momnibus, which are focusing on maternal and child health care outcomes. So we know the importance of the critical investment of a child's first 2 years in sort of predicting better social determinants of health. So this particular bill, it's Senate Bill 690-1, is currently in the Committee of Rules. So some of you may know that anything in the Committee on Rules is not subject to some of the other timelines and deadlines that we have in other committees. So sometimes if a bill takes a long time to put together or there's still a set of changes and amendments that are needed, it goes to rules. And the particular piece that we helped develop in the -1 amendment would be a pilot program. Right now it names about 5 million for ODHS to coordinate with OHA on a pilot program for pregnant and postpartum parents that are eligible for the HRSN waiver through OHA to essentially extend rental assistance. So a bit complex, because what we're trying to do is to make sure that people that are pregnant are able to access more than 6 months of rental assistance. We know from data and studies that at least a year is needed to, particularly if we're talking about the first year of life, where parents are typically not in a position to, if they're unemployed or have other barriers, right, to be able to address those barriers during baby's first year of life. And we're also working to have a partnership with local housing authorities to have a local preference prioritizing this specific population. We're still negotiating and still tweaking some of the logistics of this policy. Again, it is a pilot program and there's an evaluation component to really look at outcomes and to see if this will be effective. It's a lot of information, so sorry. Any questions on that front?
So, Maria, I'll just say that I got stuck analyzing that bill for OEP and for Oregon Eligibility Partnership, and yeah, that's there's a lot there. But
There's
it's
a lot
exciting, the idea of extending of pilot program to extend rental assistance for pregnant mothers.
Yeah, and Senator Reynolds, if you watched the committee video from yesterday, Senator Reynolds really outlines a lot of the data and studies we have, including the fact that Oregon still experiences, Oregon is number 1 or number 2 for unsheltered youth in Oregon. And it's also, I think, one of the populations most likely to be evicted. So we actually don't prioritize parents and very young children in a lot of our housing services and supports. So this is a program that is very much needed. Again, I think we were hoping for at least a 10 million pilot. So with 5 million, if we're looking at a 6-month benefit, it means that the population will be pretty small and it might be limited to one county only. Currently in the bill, it says 3, but we're still in the process of analyzing. But 5 million with rental assistance really doesn't take you too far. Some other bills that we've been tracking and working on, we had House Bill 3079, which was essentially a youth experiencing housing program supplemental bill, which did not move forward in committee. However, Rep. Levy is introducing a priority bill with very similar language that was originally included in House Bill 3079. We've been working with advocates because we do have a youth experiencing homelessness policy option package. Some of you may remember that in the last long session, we had a historic housing investment, which allowed us to expand our youth experiencing homelessness program. We went from about a 5.5 budget to a $25 million budget. And however, that was one time. So our aims with our policy option package are to make that investment permanent so we can continue serving youth with the expanded infrastructure and really not lose gains that we've made over the last 2 years. And with that, of course, there's still room for improvement. So that's where this supplemental bill will come in. There's not a lot of directives in the current language for ODHS. It focuses on other wraparound supports, either through behavioral health, through OHA. There's a few pieces to be administered by OHCS and a few components, I believe, for the Higher Education Coordinating Committee. I haven't seen final language, but just procedurally, representatives are allowed, or legislators are allowed, to introduce 5 priority bills per session, which are not subject to certain legislative timelines either. So this is kind of a special circumstances, I think, in the regular legislative process. Another important bill is House Bill 2991, which is our tax infrastructure grant. So we currently have a program at ODHS which grants funds to culturally specific organizations to have free tax preparation for low-income people. We just presented in the informational session on this to Ways and Means, so that the current committee members had some background and understood how the program works. If any of you are interested, we do publish an annual report, which is available online to see who the funders are, kind of how we've grown the program. And so one of the biggest benefits is that for people that are eligible for things like the Earned Income Tax Credit, childcare tax credits, for people that tend to not file their taxes, they're really missing out on a lot of these tax credits and benefits. So not only can it have a significant impact on the family, I believe the average income for those that are served by that program is about $28,000 a year. There's also a student an intern component, which essentially partners with schools and universities to train tax preparers. And then, of course, it brings additional federal funds to the state and works as a local economic multiplier. So we think this program is sort of a win across all areas. So we're asking for an expansion. This bill was initially brought forward by the Oregon Center for Policy and Budget Priorities, and we were hoping for a 14 million expansion. That was then reduced to 10, and I think the number now being discussed is about 5 million. So I think all of that really gives you an indication, I think, of where we are in terms of the legislative budget. And finally, one bill that I also wanted to discuss is Senate Bill 611, which is food for all. We've been working sort of as a technical advisor to Senator Campos's office, who's the chief sponsor of this bill. This is something that has been in motion for a long time. They tried to pass it in during last legislative session, and it would essentially it's a program that would parallel the SNAP program and would allow SNAP benefits for anyone that meets criteria with the exception of immigration status. So it would allow people that currently don't qualify for SNAP to receive SNAP. It is a very expensive policy. And again, with the growth of immigrants and refugees in our state, I think the people who qualify, the number is higher than it was last long legislative session. So there's been several scaled down versions of the bill, focusing first on children and older adults. And I think now in its current version, it's limited to kids age 6 and under. Again, due to the federal environment, I think there's a lot of risks potentially because of information that needs to be collected, tax information, and because we've seen that the IRS has agreed to share immigration data with ICE and border enforcement, I think there's still a lot of decisions and conversations that need to be had around that bill. So that's kind of a general overview, I think, of our key bills that we're looking at this session. I don't have the full list of bills because that would probably take your entire time. So I just wanted to highlight a few of the key bills that we're looking at. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Yeah, it's that time of session where things move from the policy committees to the budget committees. And big budget forecast, the one that counts, is coming right up. But it doesn't sound like any questions, huh?
Okay, well, thank you all for your time, everyone. As usual, if anyone has any follow-ups, feel free to reach out to me directly or to James, and he'll make sure that your questions get addressed.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. And well, that brings us into our agenda. And before you sign off, though, in my frazzleness and rush to get things moving at the beginning, I did not ask everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. So if you could take a moment to do so, just so we know who all is here. I have a record for that. And here I even modeling good behavior and put my own introduction in the chat. But yeah, and I appreciate, we really appreciate hearing from you all, from what you're hearing on the ground. These, as the old curse goes, these are interesting times. And so we do want to know what you're hearing and make sure that we have a better understanding of what communities are thinking and feeling, because they're going to say different things to us than they do to you as a community partner. So it definitely helps us be better stewards of public funds and improve our responsiveness to the community. So, but with that, any other comments or ideas for future meetings, things like that? Then, as Crystal put into the chat, we have a link that you can use as well. And all right. So maybe everyone is sitting outside in the sun and doesn't want to speak up, I guess. But in any case, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to hearing from you. It doesn't have to be just here. It can be via email, and help us make these meetings better and more productive for you and your colleagues. So please give us your ideas, and we will get on it. But otherwise, I won't keep you longer than we need to then. So thank you so much, and have a good, productive afternoon.